Are we live? I think we're live. Yo! Sorry. I get these weird ideas in the morning of things that I want to try. All right, here we go. It's Friday, and today is morning coffee number 13. Ooh. It's also October. Halloween is around the corner, so that just sort of amplifies that pun, that joke. But I'm excited about today. I was talking yesterday to a good friend of mine, and so you know, I've said it 1,000 times, I'm a massive Gary Vee fanboy, and he talks all the time about if you live for the weekend, then basically it's broken. Like, you shouldn't be living for the weekend. That's the point that he's trying to make. And I was talking to my friend and I said, listen, I do live for the weekend, but it's not because I get to take time off. It's because the weekend is when I get to go spar. And sparring is that's like my reset point for the week. And so I'm so excited about tomorrow to go sparring. I'm also excited about this weekend in particular because we're moving again. So we are going to be, some of you probably don't know the story. I'll give you the short version of the story as to how we ended up here. And this actually, I think, has a good business application. This is not what I was going to talk about today. In fact, the title of this video now isn't going to make any sense. But inspiration has hit, and therefore we are going to follow it all the way through. So I think the punchline of this story, I'll tell you at the beginning, and then I'll reiterate it at the end, and we'll see if I tell the same punch story at the end as I do at the beginning. The punchline of this story is, if you don't put yourself in the shoes of your customers, like actually try and put yourself in the mindset and in the situation and imagine what you would do if you were in that situation, you're gonna fail. You're gonna find yourself, maybe not immediately, but over the long term, if you make a habit of not putting yourself in the shoes of your customers and your prospects and like trying to get into their heads, so to speak, it's going to create problems for you long term. So about a year ago, about 8 months ago, we were living in the same complex, and we lived down on the 3rd floor, like just right across the courtyard over there. And there was an issue that happened with the sewage pipes, with the piping into the apartment. And it was an issue that no one person is really to blame for, but we suffered the consequences of that problem. So it was hard to like point the finger at one particular person and say, you're at fault, you have to pay for this. And when it happened the first time, the apartment complex had no idea what was happening. And rightfully so, right? So they've never actually seen this issue come up. We basically had sewage, basically the sewage line backing up into our apartment. And it was caused by a tiny little error in one pipe on one stack in the entire, there's probably close to 1,000 units in this place. And it's a nice place. Like, there's a lot of nice amenities. It's sort of a newer place, but there was one little imperfection in the pipe that was leading out. And it just so happened that we were the closest unit to that imperfection. So the imperfection was just a tiny little burr, like a centimeter maybe, inside a pipe that's about this big. And probably closer to like this big, but as waste and water and stuff was getting flushed out through the pipes, there was a tiny little burr that was just collecting stuff. And usually it was after every couple of months, it would collect up so much that it would block. And then that would back up, and like I said, we were the first unit connected to that particular pipe, and so all that stuff would back up into our unit. Well, we didn't know, obviously, that was going to happen going in. They didn't know that was going to happen going in. They didn't sell us a faulty unit, right? That's not, they weren't trying to do that, but that's what ended up happening. And so, to their credit, there were a lot of things that they did not do right here. Now, just quickly before you get all frustrated and upset, we're still here, and we just signed another lease for another year here, so we like it here. We like the people here, and we like the management staff, and like we're happy with them. So that's the end of this story. This doesn't end with us like freaking out and wanting to leave. So don't anybody like look up where we live and then go post negative reviews or whatever, because at the end of the day, it all came out the way we wanted to. But it didn't start out that way. In fact, when the issue first happened, because they didn't know what was happening, they didn't know how serious they were supposed to take it. And so they made the mistake of not putting themselves in our shoes, like thinking, what would happen if that was my apartment? What would happen if that was my business, if that was my thing, right? Starting to make that connection for you and your business. What would happen if that was me? And they just sort of said, well, we're going to do the best we can to take care of you. So like I said, to their credit, they put us up in we got lucky because they have a unit that was right across the hall from our unit that's like designed to be rented out to like business. It's like a hotel room essentially. So they just moved us there, and we stayed there for about a week. But they did not follow up with us the next day, and it's simple little things. We were sitting that guest unit the next day for 4 or 5 hours after the place opened, and we heard nothing. And they were working, they were doing things, they were working on our behalf, but we didn't know that. We didn't know what they were doing. And so to us, it seemed like, it's morning. To us, it seemed like they were just sitting on their hands and not really doing anything. And so we, and when I say we, I mean Sue, because I think we've talked about, I'm not the confrontational one. Sue kind of let them have it. She said, look, we're here, I'm having to work from home, I'm having to do all this stuff just because we don't know what's going to happen. Like, are we going to be able to go back into our apartment? Are we going to be able to keep any of our stuff? What needs to be thrown away? Is our dog going to get sick and die because of the stuff that he may have ingested off the ground? Like, we got to be communicated with here. And you guys have been there since 8 o'clock this morning. The maintenance people have been here since 7 o'clock this morning. Why is nobody talking to us? And from that moment on, so first of all, that was the first time. It happened 3 times, okay? But just because it was a recurring thing. And there's a lot of lessons here to unpack, but I think the biggest one is they learned from that first experience, and they made it a point that anytime anything happened with us, they were on it immediately. Right? They were on it, and they were communicative, and they responded to us, and they did everything that they could. The second time that it happened, they didn't have, that unit was already sold. There's nothing they could do about that. And they weren't going to like kick the other person out because they can't really do that. So they put us in one of the model units. But the funny thing about model units that they didn't think about is that model units don't have doors. I don't know if you've noticed that. If you ever walked through an apartment complex and you look at the model units don't have doors on like the bathrooms or to the bedrooms. So for about a week and a half, we lived in an apartment that obviously there's a front door and there was a back door, but no doors on the inside. And like I said, that's not the worst thing in the world, but you know, if you're trying to portray an elite experience or a first-class experience, which this place does, like it's very, very nice here. One of these days I'll have to give you a tour just so you can see why we would stay. They didn't even think about that. And I remember after we had moved in and I went and I gave a key back or something, I was talking back with them again, I was like making a joke like, haha, there's no doors. And they were like, oh my, I didn't even think about that. Like, and there were no shower curtains either. Why would you put shower curtains in a model unit? Why would you put doors in a model unit? You don't need them. I mean, those things cost money. So anyway, the point there is they in retrospect, they did a good job because the third time it happened, they were quick. And part of that was because I made a very, very, very direct point that if this happens again, you're putting us in a nicer apartment, in a 2-bedroom, and we're not paying any more, right? So we made it very clear that if it happened again, that was going to happen. And they agreed because they didn't want to lose the business, or they didn't want us just to leave. Because they gave us the option. The third time it happened, they gave us the option. Okay, so we're giving you the option to terminate your lease with no termination fee, but also we can put you in a 2-bedroom up on the 7th floor if you'll pay the same amount until your lease is up, and then you'd have to renew at the normal rate. And we said okay. But that was like the day it happened. The next day we moved into this place. And I think the important thing, if we take that and we convert it into a business experience, is now, because of that experience, I'm on a first-name basis with everyone that works in the leasing office. And there has been some turnover in the management, but everybody that's there, they know who we are, we know who they are. I think that should be the case for everyone. And I think that we should not have had to go through a traumatic experience like that 3 times in order to get to the point where they were as invested in us as we are literally financially in this place. And I think the same is true for business. I think we're so quick to get into the revenue game, into the money-making game, into the profit game, which we have to be as business owners, right? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but we're so quick to get into that we tend to shortcut the experience of the individual people that are part of our business, right? I mean, service businesses, I think it's the hardest to do, because the only way that you scale and actually create margin and create profit for yourself is by bringing in as many people as you can, or by charging them as much as you can. So if you're in somewhere in between where you're not really charging them enough to give them dedicated attention, but there's also more than just one or two of them, sometimes it can be difficult to really give that kind of attention. But I think it's important, and maybe this is probably the only tie-in to the title of the video, which was going to be about how business owners should do their own marketing, is that there's no way around it. You can't just decide to not do it. You have to be invested in your customers just like they're invested in you, or else it's not going to work long term. I mean, I have some really good examples of some businesses, and I've talked a lot about them recently, but I've got some good examples of businesses that do that are so connected to their customer. Here's another example. There's a company here in San Diego called Eat Clean Meal Prep, Eat Clean Meal Prep, I think is what it's called. They're a meal prep company, right? And one of the things that's cool about them is that they will provide you with not just a lot of these services give you the ingredients, and then you just make the food and then you cook it. Some of them will give you pre-cut out meal plans. Well, these guys will do family style meal plans. So they'll send you like a big aluminum foil tin thing, and you just pop it in the oven, either heat it up or cook it, and then eat it. But the cool thing is, every interaction I had with them was with a real person, the same person, and they remembered who I was. So every time there was an interaction, it was like dealing with a real person, and I felt like they were invested in me. They weren't just trying to get money from me, because I got on a plan that I thought we needed, which was way more food than we could possibly eat. So we got 3 weeks into it, and we had more food than we were still trying to finish the food from the first week. So you can imagine our freezer was just stocked full of these things. So I reached out to them and I said, hey, look, we have too much. Can we pause next week? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. So they paused it. And then the next week, it took forever. And so now we still have a bunch of stuff in there. So I said, let's just go to every other week. And they're like, yeah, no worries, no problem. And then we got to a point where we had so much food that I was like, hey, we just need to pause for a second because we need to get through this food. And they understood my situation. They understood that the transaction was not about them. The transaction was about me. It was about me getting what I need from their product and service. And I think that's probably the thing that gets missed a lot of times, is that in business, the transaction is about the customer, not about you. And I think especially we get caught up in this idea that, you can create your own lifestyle. You can create a business that fits your needs to go travel or to go do whatever you want to do. And especially because we talk a lot about find something that you love doing. And we can make the mistake of thinking that makes the business about us, but it never does. Business is not about you. It's about you. What you get out of the business is the ability to do things that you love. From then on, from that, everything beyond that it's all about the customer. It's all about the person that you're serving. It's all about what you're trying to do, because that's just what business is. It's about creating something that's actually helping other people, right? And if not, what are you doing? Why? Anyway, so that's all I have for today. Check out first of all, the website I totally did a total redesign on the website, brettmarno.com. Check it out. I'm kind of proud of it, but at the same time, I redesign my website probably once every 6 months because I get bored of it. So this is one of many, but check it out. It's kind of cool. Also, podcast episode is up from yesterday. Go to brettmarno.com/podcast. It'll send you to the Anchor site, or you can go to anchor.fm/thinklike-me and check that out. I'm excited for this weekend. I'm excited for the next couple of weeks because I got some cool stuff coming. And I'm going to drink this coffee and record some videos. Anyway, happy Friday. Happy weekend to you. Peace. I'm still here, by the way. Actually, you know what? Just to see if anybody's still watching, I want to see what this one does. I can't see it, so I don't know what's actually happening, but I just turned on like a cool little filter thing. So I think it's supposed to find me, but I think I'm already wearing a hat, so it might look weird. Anyway, well, that was fun. Okay, bye. Right now, I don't know how to turn this thing off.